Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to give a full series review on the 10-volume Kodansha series Happiness by Shuzo Oshimi. If you've watched my videos for a while, you probably know that Shuzo Oshimi is one of, if not my favorite mangaka. So I'm so happy that this series is finally complete and that I was able to read it all. This was one that I was ordering as the volumes came out, and because Shuzo Oshimi does not have a lot of dialogue in his series, they only take me like 15 minutes, if that, to read a single volume. And so when you pre-order something months in advance, wait for it to get here, read it in 15 minutes, and then have to wait several months for the next one, it is very painful. So after volume 10 came in, mine came in just at the beginning of 2020. I read it immediately, and then a few days later picked up the whole series from the start and reread the whole thing in one sitting. And it only took me about 2.5 hours to read the whole series. And I had read, so this is a reread review technically, because I've read this series twice in its entirety now, but also I've read volumes 1 through 6 and 7, maybe 1 through 7, I've read multiple times, because as I was waiting for those final volumes, I was rereading the first several volumes as well. This is a vampire series, basically about growing up, and it kind of uses vampirism as a euphemism, I think, for puberty and sexuality and lust, which I find interesting because Shuzo Oshimi does tend to focus a lot on coming of age kind of stories, and in particular puberty and sexual experiences and sexual feelings and stuff. So this series is no exception to that. I found Happiness to be a lot more disturbing and kind of grotesque because you're dealing with vampires. He kind of dives in a little deeper into that kind of gory, out of control, giving yourself over to kind of carnal desires and instinct sort of behavior. This series is not for the faint of heart by any means, especially close to the middle into the ending is quite gruesome. So fair warning on that. But absolutely phenomenal series. Emotional roller coaster from start to finish. Volume 6, which is the beautiful one on the end right here, in particular, might be one of my favorite volumes of manga that I've read in a long time. When that one came in, I read it and was crying, and then reread it multiple times. It is certainly my favorite volume of this series, but there is a scene in that volume that just like hit me right in the heart in terms of just like how these characters are dealing with what happened and what's happening. Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and it Makoto, I think, is the main character's name. He's this young boy who's bullied a lot, and he is kind of weak and spineless, and then gets bitten by a vampire. He gets attacked, and by Nora here on front cover of the first volume, and she kind of hesitates and asks him if he wants to live and be like her or if he wants to die, and he says, "I want to live." And then that kind of trickles into him becoming a vampire and not really knowing what's happening and not knowing how to deal with it, and going back to school and not being spineless anymore. Now he's got this superhuman strength, and he's not really sure what's going on with him, and he doesn't want to take anyone's shit anymore because he's so frustrated and thirsty and doesn't know what's happening. And then it just kind of spirals out of control in his personal life in terms of other people being affected by this. And it's all very mysterious and very much like there's a lot of different groups at play here, and it doesn't ever fully explain everything, I think. It kind of just all happens. Things just happen throughout this series, and it's all kind of, I don't know. Shuzo Oshimi does a really good job of not necessarily giving you the full entire picture. He lets you kind of interpret things, but he never, like, the endings of his series always seem to just wrap up really nicely in a way that allows the reader to be kind of at ease with everything that happened, even though it may not be pleasant, and in this case certainly is not pleasant. But at the end, you kind of are left with this feeling of, okay, I can breathe a sigh of relief. The series is finished. And, this one in particular, the ending was quite beautiful. I really liked it. I'm sure that some people will not enjoy it very much, but to me, it really kind of brought it all back and centered everything, and really was quite heartbreaking but beautiful and heartwarming at the same time. And yeah, I mean, I like I said, I read the final volume and then only a couple days later picked up the whole series and reread the whole thing. I actually filmed this video after finishing the final volume for the first time, and then went, well, now I just want to read the series again, picked it up, read it, and then decided to refilm the video because if you've not read anything by Shuzo Oshimi, I highly, highly recommend it as long as you're okay with more explicit content. His artwork, as you can probably see from these covers, is absolutely astounding. But in terms of, like, his actual art inside the volumes, you can see, like, I love his crisp kind of character designs, but then you also get these really trippy panels and stuff that are really fascinating. He's very atmospheric, which I really love, and it's just, I don't know, this series, each time I read it, I was more and more disturbed by what was happening, but it really, and each time I've read volume 6, it really hits me, and then that final volume just, like, ties it all together, and really, it was really beautiful. And I don't know what I don't think I had any expectations for the ending. I had no idea where the series was gonna go, but I'm so satisfied with this, and this is one I will absolutely reread. Same as Flowers of Evil, I've reread that series so many times. Yeah, if you've read Happiness, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions about it, leave them down below as well. It's very hard for me to describe Shuzo Oshimi series because they really create this very kind of visceral reaction in me, that is so hard for me to explain. I just, like, my whole body just, like, wells up with emotion, and I find it very fascinating because I felt with Flowers of Evil I connected very heavily with a lot of those characters, and I thought that was what was, like, really gripping to me. But Happiness, I don't find myself connecting with these characters in a ton of ways, but I still like, he just has a way with his art, and the fact that he can tell a story with almost art entirely, because there's not a lot of dialogue when you compare to some other manga or a lot of other manga. There's not a ton of dialogue. Most of the storytelling happens through the art, and the fact that he can convey such an emotional, impactful story with art and a few words really hits me, because it's those very few words that are so meaningful and well thought out, and just so well put and intentional. It's not dialogue for the sake of dialogue. Everything that these characters are taking the time to say means something. And I think that might be part of the reason why I appreciate his series so much, is that he, it's not just beautiful covers. The inside, all the panels are just as gorgeous. And when the characters do speak, it's all purposefully. It's not just filler dialogue. And his series always seem to be so perfect in length. Like, this didn't need to be more than 10 volumes. I guess it could have been shorter than 10 volumes, but it doesn't feel like when you're reading this series, it doesn't at any point feel like, okay, well, when is it going to end? It just feels so natural to go from start to finish. And it all closes nice enough that you're just, satisfied with it. And every time I read his series, I want to just start right back at the beginning and read again. But I never feel like, oh, well, I needed more, or oh, that was too much. It's just the perfect amount. And I appreciate that. And that could just be me and my own personal interpretation, but this is my review and I'm giving my thoughts on it. Other people are welcome to feel differently. But yeah, I just really, really love this and highly recommend it to people that know what they're getting into with Shuzo Oshimi, or are okay with a lot of grotesque imagery. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. Again, questions, comments, thoughts on the series, leave them down below. Thanks for watching. See ya.